I'm going to try not to get emotional. One of the things, oh, okay. So when I first started writing the book, the main love interest, the best friend of the main character, I made him Palestinian because I had a crush on an actor. And I thought, oh, he must have been cute at 17. That'll be the love interest. And obviously, I was like, I've, dated Arab guys before. I've experienced racism, and I tried to come onto it in a way where, like, I was only using my base knowledge, like what I had experienced in my life. And, I did my research, but I didn't put a lot of it into the book because I thought, who wants a history lesson in a YA book? At a certain point, my agent told me, you can't just sort of be like, oh, like I was sort of cryptically referring to Salim's family's history. And I was sort of like, oh, his parents were born in Palestine, and, again, anti-Arab racism, Islamophobia, like, I get it, but I didn't. And so I kept digging, and I started reading, it's funny when you think research, you think nonfiction. And that's when I started reading fiction about Palestine, poetry, started following people on Twitter and activists and exposing myself a lot more to it than I had because I was scared. Because it is a big responsibility to have this be for kids and then to handle such a sensitive history. But what I started doing, in one of the chapters, I had a flashback. And I remember when I was in the 5th grade, our teacher made us go to the front of the classroom and point on the globe where we were from. I was in East LA, so a lot of us, Mexico, like where our ancestors were from. And, there are people from Colombia or whatever. But I just thought, okay, if Salim were to do that, and he's looking at this globe, would the name of his country be on there? And I had just seen, like, I was kind of just going about my life, and I looked at the globe, and there was no Palestine, there was just Israel. And I thought, that's a moment. And it's a really sad moment, but it was, of course, necessary. And the really interesting, so I put that into the book, and I was like, again, that's not boring, I hope. I mean, like, it wasn't to me. And then I was like, okay, and then in US history, when I learned about it junior year, the way my teacher phrased it was like, and then Israel was created, and there was no mention of who was there, before 1948. And I thought, what if Salim had been in that class and had heard that? And then I did like the timeline. I'm like, okay, it's actually his grandparents who are from Palestine. His parents were born in the US. And I'm learning all these things about him that I didn't know before. And he was just becoming more and more real to me. And so like there was that scene too. And writing is beautiful, and using your imagination, like sometimes it feels like it's not just you, it's, you're communing with something. And what was really interesting is I read another poetry collection after I'd written that scene, and the globe thing had happened to the poet. And I was just like, imagine if my agent hadn't told me to really go for it. And imagine if I had stayed scared.